Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening po sa lahat. Welcome po to our 153rd episode of the Stop COVID Deaths webinar series brought to you by the University of the Philippines. Thank you for being part of our credible online community, and for all those who have just discovered us for today, welcome po, and very exciting ang ating topic for today's webinar. In the face of the ongoing COVID-19 situation, although it's no longer a pandemic, yung pong development and deployment of effective vaccines, they have emerged as crucial pillars of our global response. Ang ating pong webinar will be talking about bivalent vaccines for COVID-19, and we aim to shed light on an innovative and promising approach to combating the virus by harnessing the power of dual protection. So ito po ay organized po in coordination with the Department of Health, and we bring together speakers po who will provide their collective expertise and valuable insights po for a diverse audience. As you know, bivalent vaccines offer a breakthrough solution incorporating two different antigen components within a single vaccine formulation, enabling simultaneous protection against multiple strains or variants of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So ito pong webinar po natin, we'll be talking about the science behind the bivalent vaccines, exploring the mechanisms of action, safety profiles, and obviously the efficacy against the emerging variants. I'm Dr. Raymond Francis Sarmiento, Director of National Telehealth Center, National Institutes of Health, University of the Philippines, Manila. Always a pleasure to be with all of you during a regular, medyo po maulan na Friday. And for this week po, no, kasama ko na po ulit ang ating co-host, our adjunct research faculty at the National Telehealth Center, and also international renowned public health communications expert, Dr. Susie Pineda Mercado. Dr. Susie?
Hi, Raymond. Good afternoon at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I'd like to say hello to all of you who are with us on the live broadcast of this Zoom webinar, and those who are watching live stream on TVUP YouTube channel, as well as the UP System Facebook page, TVUP Facebook page, Stop COVID Death Facebook page, and of course, all those who are watching on TVUP Signal TV Channel 101. So we have multiple platforms, and it's really great to have all of you here. I'd also like to greet those who are watching on the playback. Raymond, I know a lot of folks can't do it, can't be with us at noontime, but they do join us on the playback. So magandang pagbati po sa inyong lahat. Kasi maganda to pag-uusapan natin, ano? I mean, we are going to talk about bivalent vaccines. Ano ba yung bivalent? What does it mean, no? And what are the strategies? What are the policies? And how will this help us? Do we really need it? Kailangan pa bang magpabakuna? A lot of people are saying, nagkasakit na ako, hindi na ako magpapabakuna. We will have an opportunity to listen to none other than the best experts, and we will look at the benefits and challenges associated with bivalent vaccines. Okay, our main speakers, and we're very proud, of course, that the Secretary of Health comes from Stop COVID Deaths. Unfortunately, he had to record this message at pinatawag kung saan, but we'll also have Dr. Beverly Ho, who is the Assistant Secretary for the Public Health Services team of the DOH, and of course, from California, paborito niyo po to, si Dr. Franco Felizarta. Napakalinaw po mag-explain. He's based in California. He's going to explain to us more about the different vaccines. And of course, none other than Dr. Nina Gloriani, our vaccines expert and former dean of the UP Manila College of Public Health. Our closing and synthesis will be done by Dr. Stella Maria Jose, who is the PGH Office of Expanded Education and Training Head. All right, so you've seen our opening billboard. We still call this program Stop COVID Deaths, but we do cover a wide range of topics. But today we are going to talk about COVID. And because you always want to be abreast with the latest news, both from here and abroad, it's our pleasure, Raymond and I will bring you the news update.
Okay, for a very first news update po, no? The first Alzheimer's drug that has been shown to slow disease progression expected to receive US FDA po na full approval. So the US FDA expected to decide, I think today, at our time, whether to grant traditional approval to the Alzheimer drug called Leqembi. It's the first medicine proven to slow the course of this memory-robbing disease. Leqembi, from the drug makers Eisai and Biogen, received accelerated approval in January of this year based on evidence that it clears amyloid plaque buildups in the brain associated with Alzheimer's. But because of an earlier coverage decision by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, which provides insurance coverage for many elderly patients with Alzheimer's through Medicare, the drug has not been widely used. Ang cost po nito, kung magkano po siya, is $26,500 before insurance coverage. So mahalaga po talaga na meron tong insurance coverage po na parte po nito. What about you, Dr. Susie?
Well, Raymond, from Alzheimer's, let's talk about malaria. 12 countries across the different regions in Africa are said to receive 18 million doses of the first ever malaria vaccine over the next 2 years. The rollout is a critical step forward in the fight against one of the leading causes of death on the African continent. The vaccines have been allocated based on some principles like highest need and where the risk of malaria illness and death among children is highest. Since 2019, Ghana, Kenya, and Malawi have been delivering the malaria vaccine through the Malaria Vaccine Implementation Program coordinated by the World Health Organization, funded by Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the Global Fund to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, Malaria, and UNITAID. At least 28 African countries have expressed interest in receiving the malaria vaccine, but as of now, there will only be 12 countries that will be able to avail of it. And that's our news for today. We'll be back next week with more updates on the news update. And we are back, Raymond. So do you have housekeeping first before we call on our persons on the street?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Susie.
By the way, pasensya na kayo, wala ako last time. You know, I have relocated to Manila. So I am back.
Very good.
To Manila. Nandito na po ako. So, nagkabiyahe lang ako ng last week, kaya hindi ako nakasama sa inyo. But it's great to be here and it's great to do the show. At the same time, dati I was doing the show, Raymond, in the evening, habang tanghali sa inyo, no? So anyway, very nice to be here and hopefully get to meet Stop COVID That's team again, our production team. Sige, Raymond, go ahead to our person on the street.
Thank you, Dr. Susie. So, especially for those who are joining us for the very first time, we usually set our discussion into context by having this person on the street video po, just to get the sense po from the folks on the ground kung ano po yung opinion po nila on a particular topic. And for today's person on the street video, we ask the questions: alam nyo ba kung ano ang latest tungkol sa COVID-19 vaccines? Ano po ang alam ninyo tungkol sa bivalent vaccines? At sa tingin nyo ba ay kailangan pang magpabakuna gamit ang bivalent vaccines? Please watch this.
Wala na akong balita eh.
Sa ngayon, wala akong update or like latest news kung magkakaroon ba ng vaccine for COVID.
Honestly, wala pa akong masyadong idea regarding the new vaccine na meron tayo.
Hindi ko po narinig yung tungkol sa bagong vaccine.
Meron daw lumalabas na bagong vaccine. Ano ba pangalan nun?
Ngayon ko lang siya narinig.
If there will be a new version of virus, nakaka-alarma siya lalo na sa education sector.
Hindi ko pa kasi siya nababasa or naririnig, so hindi ko sure din kung ano siya for makakatulong ba siya.
Actually, wala pa ako masyadong alam doon kasi syempre hindi naman nababalita. Parang may kumukontrol. Kinukontrol nila yung balita. Sana lang ibalita nila para nalalaman ng tao.
Para saan siya muna? Kasi hindi ko alam kung vaccine siya for, vaccine siya for COVID, pero ito ba yung updated na vaccine para dun sa bagong variants kung nagkakaroon pa ba ng bago? Or would it be the same as Pfizer or AstraZeneca?
It has been a long time since nag-remove na tayo ng face mask. Hindi na siya na-require, especially in the schools. So, nakakatakot dahil yung contamination and yung distribution ng magiging, sabihin na natin, upcoming variant ng virus ay mag-transfer sa bawat estudyante na meron tayo.
I think it's very poor, especially with the information kasi nga with the new vaccine na sinasabi mo, hindi pa siya ganun ka laganap yung news about it or information about it. So I think poor yung handling ng bansa natin. So,
Hindi ko alam kung ano ngayon ang lagay ng Pilipinas when it comes to COVID-19. Kasi number one, hindi naman siya lumalabas sa news outlets. Number two, hindi na siya tulad nung dati na everyday may nakikita kang count kung tumataas ba or bumababa yung kaso. Number three, very lenient na yung ngayon, yung mga tao ngayon. Like, people wouldn't wear masks anymore unless they're obliged to or mandated or kunyari nasa public transportation sila at kailangan nilang mag-mask.
Para sa akin, hindi na. Sapat na sa akin yung vaccine na meron ako, like yung Pfizer. Confident na ako doon.
Well, if there's a need, why not? Napaka-importante nun, lalo na sa mga minors at kung sino man yung mas affected.
I think hindi na kasi dumaan ako sa 3 vaccine. So I think that's too much if magpapavaccine.
I don't think nasa height pa rin tayo ng pandemic or let's just say nalimutan na, nalipasan na ng panahon ang issue tungkol sa COVID-19, lalo na hindi na rin nagiging maigting yung encouragement ng government para lahat tayo ay magkaroon ng bakuna.
Okay, thank you very much, TPUP, for sharing that. Raymond's always nice to know what people on the ground are thinking, no? And apparently, it seems like there's not much information on the bivalent vaccines, but this is an opportunity for us to do our share and to provide everyone, our frontliners in particular, with information that can help the public understand it, particularly those who need to have this vaccine.
So hopefully our webinar for today will really gain more traction po, no? Not just for today but also in the playback and those who will watch it in YouTube or in Facebook po, just to be able to spread po the information regarding bivalent vaccines. But before we start our webinar po, no, just a little bit of housekeeping. All those who are asking, certificates of attendance will be given for those who will watch at least 50% of the webinar duration. The only webinar and whose certificate po we have not sent out is webinar na 150, I believe. That's the one that we collaborated with the Climate Change Commission. So that's still being processed for signature. And hopefully yun lang po yung wala po kayo. But for the rest, we anticipate po that everyone should have received their certificates. If you have any questions for those webinars na hindi po kayo nakatanggap ng inyong certificates, please email us at stopcovidets@up.edu.ph. For our webinar today, we'll be having our standard panel discussion format, and after our speakers have presented, that will be followed by a live Q&A session. But before we delve into the webinar, here is our cute intro video, very short, for our fun quiz segment for today.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Kumusta na kayo lahat?
Hi, I'm Doc Susie, the mini Doc Susie.
And I'm Doc Radar, the mini Doc Raymond. Are you ready to have fun? Simply open your browser to www.slido.com and enter your code to participate. We will discuss your answers during the panel discussion later on in the program.
We will have it flashing on your screen in a bit, and we look forward to your answers. Masaya at madali lang ito. Join na!
Okay, very cute. Okay, for our webinar today, we have 3 questions for our fun quiz. But for those who are joining us through Slido, so you open up your browsers, type in dun po sa address bar slido.com and enter the code 6510096. That's 6510096 for you to be able to participate in our fun quiz segment. For our very first question, ang sabi po dito, what are the components of the bivalent vaccine? Is it A, the original strain ng SARS-CoV-2? Is it B, yung Omicron po na BA.4 and BA.5 na subvariants? Is it C, Omicron XBB subvariant? Or is it D, A and B only? Or E po, all of the above? We would like to greet those who are joining us locally. At the very least, meron po from Barangay Nagbunga Casilleos in Zambales, from Tacloban City, from Eastern Visayas Medical Center, from Ozamis City in Misamis Occidental, Mayor Hilarion A. Ramiro Senior Medical Center in Ozamis City, Misamis Occidental. There are those joining us from UP Los Baños, from the Hospital ng Imus Public Health Unit, Likhaan Center for Women's Health in Quezon City, from Rizal Technological University, maraming salamat po. From Bataan, from the PGH Ward 1, Internal Medicine po ito, Medicine Ward, from the Southern Philippines Medical Center in Davao City, those who are joining us from Loma de Gato, Marilao, Bulacan, maraming salamat po. Obviously, from Bataan, from New Sinai School and Colleges, from Caranglan, Nueva Ecija, from Pampanga, from Las Piñas General Hospital po and Satellite Trauma Center, from UST, nandito rin po, maraming salamat. From the University of Rizal System Health Services, I would think that will be it. Thank you so much. At marami pa po ang I think are joining us for today's webinar. Question number 2. For question number 2, in the Philippines, makakuha po ba kayo, can you get a bivalent vaccine without completing a primary series? Yes po ba or no? Okay? I'd like to greet those who are joining us all the way from the St. Bartholomew's Hospital in London, UK, from the UP Medical Alumni Society in America, in Chicago po, from Uhod District, Dammam Canadian Medical Center in Saudi Arabia, from the University of Il in Saudi Arabia, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia po. And those who are joining us from California as well. Thank you so much. For question number 3, who should be prioritized in receiving the COVID-19 bivalent vaccines? Is it A, senior citizens, B, frontline healthcare workers, C, yung po may comorbidities, and D, all of the above? Okay? So please remember po kung ano po yung sinagot po ninyo sa ating fun quiz. Later on in the program, we will ask our speakers to provide the correct answers for today's webinar. Dr. Susie?
Yeah, thank you so much, Raymond, for this. No, we are actually, I'm seeing the number of participants really increasing, no, as we go on with the webinar. And we are really looking forward to hearing from our experts. But before we do that, we have a very special message from one of your favorites, who is now our Secretary of Health, Dr. Ted Herbosa. Give you.
Good afternoon, Susie, and good afternoon, Raymond, and good afternoon to everyone here at Stop COVID Deaths. No, I'm very happy to address you now as the new Secretary of Health of the Department of Health here at Stop COVID-19. Over the past 2 years, we have seen how drastically COVID-19 has affected our society. Globally, there are more than 767 million confirmed cases and over 6.9 million deaths. In the Philippines, on July 7th of this year, 2023, the country remains to be a low-risk case classification with roughly more than 2,000 active cases only. Since we began vaccinating against COVID-19 in 2021, the 78 million target population has been fully vaccinated, with 30.49% or 23.8 million having their first booster and 5.6% having their second booster. We already started vaccinating the general population in May of this year with their second booster shots. Also, among 15.8 million of the country's Pag-asa ng Bayan have been fully vaccinated. Our tireless efforts to vaccinate our people further strengthened our wall of immunity against the virus, which led to the reopening of the economy and our gradual return to a march towards a better normal. Even so, As COVID-19 remains to be with us, we shall continue to assess our risks and continue to apply our layers of protection, which are wearing masks, isolating when sick, ensuring good airflow, and getting vaccinated against the virus. Now, the bivalent vaccines are already in the country through the generosity of the government of Lithuania. More than 391,000 doses were received by the Philippine government last June. For now, with the limited doses, this is available first and foremost as a third booster to all healthcare workers, the listeners to this webinar, the frontline responders to the pandemic, so that they may have additional protection against potential for direct and indirect exposure to patients or infectious materials in the hospitals and other healthcare settings. Likewise, to reduce the likelihood of deaths and hospitalization, it is also made available to senior citizens who have long toiled for this country and are more susceptible to diseases leading to complications that can result in long-term illness, hospitalization, and even death. Further, we at the Department of Health assure you that we are making arrangements to secure additional vaccine donations from COVAX, which shall spark the expansion of coverage for COVID-19 bivalent vaccines for the general public. Nevertheless, whether bivalent or monovalent, we encourage everyone to get boosted so that we do not have to face the fears of the past when we did not even have enough defense in our arsenal. Muli, tandaan natin, para sa mas pinalakas na proteksyon, kompletong booster ang solusyon. Join the Department of Health as we fulfill our last point in our 8-point action agenda, and let us be Filipinas na may proteksyon sa anumang pandemya. Again, congratulations to the University of the Philippines and the Stop COVID Death series. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Sa Healthy Pilipinas, bawat buhay ay mahalaga tungo sa bagong Pilipinas.
Oh, thank you very much to the Department of Health and Dr. Pedro Bosa, who actually wanted to join us. But I guess gano'n na talaga, no? Parang nahihila na kung saan-saan. And I think his message is very strong. So we'll have more explanations from our experts. So Raymond, let's go to our next speaker. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so for our very first speaker po, no, very popular, also one of your favorites, is an infectious disease specialist based in the West Coast in the United States, also a member po of the UP Medical Alumni Society in America. Please welcome again to your screens, Dr. Franco Felizarta.
Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
So, good afternoon to all of you. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Today, we will discuss the bivalent booster update. These are my disclosures. So, my talk will consist of three the first one will be vaccine uptake, variants, and epidemic curves. The second one is bivalent antibody T-cell responses, and the third portion will be effectiveness of the bivalent vaccine. So, what is the bivalent vaccine? It consists of there are two components for the bivalent vaccine. One is the ancestral strain, okay, and the second one is the combination of BA.4 and BA.5 strains of the B11529 or Omicron variant. So this is really a combination of the BA4 and BA5 subvariants. Okay, so but remember, there's half is ancestral strain and half is a combination of BA4 and BA5 Omicron subvariants. So that's the components of the bivalent vaccine. So let's talk about variants and subvariants. Okay, so Oh, sorry, before that, this is just showing the recommended adult immunization schedule for in the United States for 2023. As you can see here, the COVID-19 is indicated as a 2 to 3 dose primary series and booster. So remember, in the United States, there's no more monovalent vaccine. So we only have the bivalent vaccine. So if you need a primary series, you don't have a choice. You need to use the bivalent vaccine. This is the recommended child and adolescent immunization schedule in the United States for 2023. As you can see here, the COVID-19 is indicated for 6 months and older. This is in the United States. And remember, there's no monovalent vaccine. We can only use a bivalent vaccine. Okay, so what is the uptake of the COVID-19 vaccine in the United States, at least for ages 12 years and older? This is from August 2021 to January 2023. And as you can see here, initially there's a good uptake of vaccines, especially for the primary series. About 50% of the United States population was vaccinated. But after that, there's a rapid decrease in the vaccine uptake. So this is the first booster, after the first booster authorization, second booster, and the bivalent booster authorization. So as you can see here, the vaccine uptake for the bivalent booster is quite low. Only about 20% of the US population, 1 in 5, received the bivalent booster. So what about variants? Okay, so this is just showing you how complicated the system is. But this one is showing you the global cases and proportion of variants. So initially we have this ancestral strain, and then the first important mutation developed, the D614G, and then you have alpha, and then of course delta, which is the worst, and then you have all this Omicron subvariants, starting with BA1 to BA5 in June of 2022. Now remember, the bivalent vaccine has 2 components: the ancestral vaccine and the BA5 Omicron subvariant. Okay. Now, in the United States, in December of 2022, the BA5 Omicron subvariant was replaced by the BQ.1.1 Omicron subvariant, and now in January it was replaced by XBB.1.5, which is called the Kraken. It's in an Omicron subvariant. In June, the Kraken or XBB.1.5 is being replaced. It's still number 1, but it's not dominant anymore. It's being replaced by other XBB strains of the Omicron subvariant XBB. So it's being replaced by XBB.1.16 and XBB.1.92. Okay. So most important to remember here is at least 95% of the viruses circulating in the United States right now are XBB variants of the Omicron subvariant XBB. At least 95%. This one is from the Philippines, and in early June, the most dominant variant is the XBB strain 191 Hyperion, 32%. In late June, the most dominant XBB strain was the Arcturus or XBB 1.16. So most important to remember here is about 90% of the circulating virus in the Philippines today are XBB strains. In the United States, it's about 95%. Remember, so what's happening is we have all these different variants, and then it's replaced by different Omicron subvariants, and now we're having different XBB strains. So it's actually becoming more predictable. So let's look at the epidemic curves now. So in the right, as you can see here, the normalcy index is increasing. It's almost 100% now. So that means there's less restrictions, there's no social distancing, at least here in the United States, and minimal masking, at least here in the United States. So despite the increase in activity, that's number 1. Okay. Second is we talk about the different variants. There's newer variants developing. And three, there's actually decreasing vaccine uptake. Okay, so increasing activity, newer variants, decreasing vaccine uptake. Despite all those three, look at the daily deaths. This is worldwide. So from 2021, 15,000 per day, and now it's less than 1,000. So the estimated excess COVID deaths per year in 2020 and 2021 is about 10 million. 10 million per year. In total, about 25 million now. But now, if you base it on this, it will be 500,000 per year. About 2 to 3 times higher than influenza. So we're now transitioning from a pandemic phase to an endemic phase. We're already transitioning. Okay, so maybe another year it will be established. Okay, so these are the death curves for the United States and the Philippines. As you can see, there's a progressive decrease in deaths. Okay, this is despite increase in activity, decrease in vaccine uptake, and newer variants. So what is the explanation for all of this? Well, because we are not immunologically naive anymore. Okay, this is a study in the United States from second quarter of 2021 to the third quarter of 2022. As you can see here, less than 5% have no infection or vaccination, only less than 5%. Right? More than 95% have immunity against COVID. So half have hybrid immunity, which is both infection and vaccination-induced antibodies. So usually you have a vaccination first, and then you develop a mild or even asymptomatic breakthrough infection. So that's the best, is the hybrid immunity, and I'll give you the evidence for that later. About half have infection-only induced antibodies, meaning they never received the vaccine. So there's still a significant vaccine hesitancy in the United States. About 1/4 did not receive the vaccine. About 1/4 have vaccine-only induced antibodies, meaning they got the vaccine and they never got COVID. But remember, this is up to third quarter of 2022. But now, second quarter of 2023, I'm pretty sure a lot of these patients will have breakthrough infection, but most of them will be very mild or asymptomatic. Okay, so this is a study showing protection versus Omicron conferred by previous infection or hybrid immunity compared to immune-naive individuals over time. So as you can see here in the middle, this is just hybrid immunity, meaning vaccination and then a mild infection after. And this is just primary series, not even considering booster. The protection against hospital admission or severe disease does not decrease even after 1 year. After 1 year, there's no decrease in the protection against severe disease. Well, there's a significant, substantial decrease in protection against any infection. This includes asymptomatic and symptomatic infection. But for severe disease, there's no substantial decrease in protection even after 1 year. Of course, we're going to need more studies, see if this will be durable until 2 to 3 years from now. Okay. This one is just showing you that the hybrid immunity, infection plus primary series, is superior to vaccination alone or infection alone. Okay, now let's look at the bivalent booster antibody and T-cell responses now. Okay, so we discussed some epidemiology. Now look at the bench research. So this is a busy slide, but there's 3 things to remember here. One is the bivalent vaccine, the green, is slightly better than the monovalent vaccine, as you can see here, slightly better. Okay. Number 2, the antibody response is decreasing with newer variants. So you have this good response with the original strain, but much lower response with the XBB1 spike. Okay. Number 3, the antibody response is actually better if the participants had a previous infection. So it just shows you that the hybrid immunity is superior. Okay, now this one is about T-cell responses now. So the previous one is about antibody responses. So there's 2 components to our immune system. There's the antibody, and we have the T-cell cellular immunity. So these are T cell responses. On the left is the classic antibody response. So after vaccination, the antibody response increases. 6 months after, there's a substantial decrease in the antibody levels. But after vaccination, after booster vaccination, it decreases again. Okay, that's a classic. It goes down and then increases with booster. This is the T cell response on the right. So there's an increase in T cell response after vaccination, but there's actually no significant decrease in the T cell response 6 months after. And not only that, there's no significant increase in the T cell response after booster vaccination, meaning T cell responses are durable and looks like there's not much benefit with booster vaccination, at least for T cell response. And remember, we think T cell response is important in protections against severe disease. Okay, that's probably the explanation why there's no drop in the protection against severe disease, even 1 year after, which we mentioned a while ago. Now, this one is a study showing that there's really no significant difference between monovalent and bivalent vaccines in terms of T cell responses. No significant difference. Okay. In the previous slides, I've shown that there's a slight advantage with bivalent over monovalent in terms of antibody responses, but in T cell responses, there's no significant difference. So now let's look at the bivalent vaccine effectiveness. Okay, so in the next few slides, I'm going to show you that the bivalent vaccine is about 50% more effective than the monovalent vaccine. But there are two things to remember here now. This is at least in the United States. In the United States, we're really comparing the bivalent vaccine versus the waning immunity of the monovalent vaccine. And that's because there's no monovalent vaccine available in the United States right now. The only thing that you can get is bivalent vaccine. So here, this blue line are for individuals vaccinated with a bivalent booster. This lighter blue line are individuals vaccinated only with the monovalent doses because they did not receive the bivalent booster. So there should be some waning here. And this is unvaccinated individuals. So if you just compare bivalent and monovalent, you'll see an advantage of bivalent over monovalent in terms of standardized mortality. Okay, so it's lower mortality for bivalent compared to monovalent. But if you compare it with the unvaccinated, here, the absolute benefit, increase in benefit with the bivalent vaccine over the monovalent is much lower now. It's much lower, especially in non-elderly individuals. So my point here is the relative effectiveness is modest, or you can say it's good, at least 50%. But in terms of absolute benefit, it's much lower. So we can skip this. So this one is study showing effectiveness of the bivalent booster according to the interval since the administration, the last administration of the monovalent vaccine. So as you can see here, the effectiveness against infection is minimal, only 30%. And then there's a drop after 2 weeks. For hospitalization, it's better, 60%, and that's 80% effectiveness. But after 2 months, 2 weeks, not even 2 months, 2 weeks, there's a rapid drop in the effectiveness. And if you compare the effectiveness with the earlier variants compared to the later variants, the newer variants, especially XBB, there's a much rapid drop in the effectiveness, even with hospitalization and death. Okay. In this study, this is actually a study in Cleveland clinics, and they gave a vaccine in healthcare workers. They've shown that the bivalent vaccine, this is for working age adults, okay, not for the elderly, only afforded modest protection, only 29% against COVID-19, while the BA4, BA5 strain were the dominant circulating strains. Remember, this is the bivalent vaccine is BA4, 5, And this is during the BA.4/5, and it's only 29% effectiveness against infection, though, okay? Not against severe infection. And then it afforded even less protection, 21%, when the BQ strain came in. And then when the XBB strain came in, the effectiveness is 4%. It's almost useless, 4%. Okay, this is for working age adults protection versus any infection. Okay, so remember, protection against infection is lower than protections against severe disease. In the previous study, they've shown that even in less than 65, the protection against severe disease can be almost up to 50%. Okay. Now, this is another study from Finland, and they've shown that the bivalent booster effectiveness against severe disease now is about 50%. Okay, for individuals 65 years and older. So this is for 65 years and older. So it's okay, 50%. But after 2 to 3 months, it becomes insignificant, even for patients who are 65 years and older. This is another study. This one is from Italy. The other one's from Finland. This study is suggesting that for persons 60 years and older, so for the elderly, with a prior previous infection, a second booster dose 6 months after the latest infection might be warranted. So if you look at this, if you gave the vaccine, the bivalent vaccine, more than 6 months after the latest infection, you get an effectiveness of more than 50%. But if you give it within 6 months of the latest infection, only 10%. There's not much improvement in the effectiveness if it's given within 6 months of the latest infection. This one is the last study, and this is from the United States. And here it's showing that due to waning immunity of monovalent doses, the benefit of the bivalent is increased with time since the receipt of the most recent monovalent vaccine dose. So it's almost the same with the previous infection. So it's better to give it at least 6 months. Here, actually, it became more than 50% effective if you give it more than 8 months. So, near 6 months. So based on all these studies, my recommendation is the bivalent vaccine is indicated for the elderly, 65 years and older, especially during season where the incidence of respiratory diseases are increased. For example, in the Philippines during the rainy season, you want it just before the rainy season. And the United States, you want to give the vaccine just before the winter season. But for all the other age groups, non-elderly, the indication is less clear because the effect is modest. Not only that, it's short-lived for newer variants, especially XBB. And remember, in the Philippines, about 90% are XBB, and in the United States, at least 95% are XBB. Now, remember, this is my opinion. Okay, so so but it might be different from the official recommendation of the Philippine government and the U.S. government. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Dr. Franco Felizarta. Naku, ang ganda naman. Palakpakan naman natin. My goodness. I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch it again. Kasi
very nice, very nice.
Really very well studied and very detailed analysis of benefits and what the indications are for the use. And for me, it was really so important to hear about the context, no, kung ano yung circulating variant and how that affects what we should do in terms of vaccine. So thanks so much, Franco. Don't go away. I know gabi na dyan, pero please don't go away. I'm sure there are questions from our audience. And I think people will want to know a little bit more, no? So we'll have you in the Q&A. So our next speaker for today is vaccine specialist. Did you want to say something?
No. I'm just impressed with whenever Dr. Felizarta gives all of the evidence.
No?
And then may disclaimer lang sa dulo, pero okay po.
Galing talaga, ang galing. Franco, really galing. You don't know how much we appreciate your time and the effort you put into the presentation with all the latest data from all the journals and all. Okay, next speaker is vaccine specialist, former head of the COVID-19 Vaccine Experts Group and former Dean of the College of Public Health, University of the Philippines. Please welcome to your screens, Dr. Nina Gloriani. Nina, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Doc Susie and Doc Raymond and everyone here, no? Naku, nawala yung nag-share na ako, nawala pa. Okay na, kasi sabi cannot start screen share. Okay na ako mag-share?
I think you should be able
Go ahead,
to.
go ahead.
Yes,
Okay
ma'am.
na,
Opo.
okay na,
Opo.
alright.
Mm.
Sorry. Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Franco. You made it very easy for the people to understand. Teka lang, slideshow. Ano ba yan? Namamali-mali. Sorry.
Okay lang po, okay lang po.
Okay, dito muna tayo
Yan.
syempre sa title page. So, I actually entitled this vaccines for COVID-19 from monovalent EUA to Omicron targeting bivalent vaccine now with CPR. Para lang alam natin, no, na where we're coming from. Bakit kailangan ng bivalent? So talking points, yun nga, some of these EUA approvals for monovalent vaccines, yung ancestral strain. And then I have to provide some view also on the evolution, yung mutations, which Dr. Franco already discussed very well, no? Pero ito yung kasi naging basis for the updated vaccines. So now we have the certificate of product registration for one bivalent vaccine. Ito yung Pfizer. And then I'll give you some developments on what's out there in the pipeline and some take-home messages. Okay, so ito yun, no? We probably only there are not too many countries who authorize so many vaccines, but we have 9 monovalent vaccines authorized for use here in the Philippines. And we started our first doses back in March 2021. And then the first booster was approved how many months later? November 2021 na yan. So mga 6-7 months na. And then the second booster, those approved April 25, 2022. So just looking at these timelines, so siguro yung mga nandito ngayon who receive your vaccines, you know where you're at. How long has it been since you had your last doses? So we're back now to this variant. So makita nyo dito, I don't know if I can, ito. So we had our original Wuhan vaccine strain here. We launched that in March 2021. Pero at that time, meron na konting nag-emerge na variants, C614, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta. The worst was Delta. But you see now, pinakamahaba, pinakamatagal is your Omicron. And the Omicron variant became subvariants, nag-anak, subvariants, and then sublineages. So we had to update our vaccines. You heard about yung waning immunity and of course the immune evasion ng new variants. So you have to update. So now we are looking at variant-specific updated vaccines, and specifically we'll talk about BA5, BA4. Pero you heard also earlier na mayroon ng ibang Omicron subvariants or sublineages. So the emergence of variants of concern, especially with the immune evasive properties and higher transmissibility, is something that we really need to address. So this is in the Philippines, yun kasi up to 2022. This is now up to April 2020, June na pala to, June 2023. So just to show you nga na the Omicron seems to be lingering for a long time. Parang yung hindi mo siya long COVID, pero andyan siya for a long time. So ito, we have BA4, 5, the basis for the bivalent vaccine now. But we have this. Ito na, 90-95% of the subvariant circulating is now XBB. So, yan. Nandito siya yan. Soon enough, baka puro green na yan. Actually, medyo late na nga to, no? So, what does it mean that we need to update vaccines? So, ano yung ibig sabihin? We really need, no? And why did we come up with the bivalent and how are they different? Now, especially because of the virus continuing to change, yung mutation, it is important that the vaccines keep pace and be updated to match the strains of the virus that are circulating. So, pag walang match, di sayang si vaccine, no? So, the initial vaccines developed were monovalent based on the original. Remember, Wuhan is virus strain to. Tapos, nagpalit-palit na. And then, hindi naman we were not able to catch up that quickly, of course, even with the mRNA vaccine, no? But eventually, the first bivalent vaccine comprising BA.4 and BA.5 became available, were approved, of course, initially in the US. So that covers both the original strain and these two subvariants. So EUA po lahat to, at least here in the Philippines, for at least siguro less than 3 years. Now, we're very happy that we have at least one brand or one vaccine, yung Pfizer bivalent vaccine that has been approved by the FDA in the Philippines just last June 26, 2023. But take note, this approval is only for a booster dose. So this is the press release of the FDA. So last June 26, the FDA approves the Certificate of Product Registration or CPR for COVID-19 vaccine. This is, they just call this tozinameran plus famtozinameran. Ito yung original strain plus the BA4, BA5. So for 15 micrograms each strain and 4 booster. So yan, no? Booster, malinaw po. But this is at this time. We may have to change the approvals later or recommendations later. Now, who should get this bivalent now? Now, we only have donated vaccines at this time, less than 400,000 doses. So who should get this? So this is a donation. So the Department of Health is actually still taking a lead here. And especially because we still, although we have removed or we have gotten out of the public health, state of public health emergency, vaccines with EUA have 1 year extended parang approval. So it's still okay, no? So everyone aged 12 years and older could get a bivalent shot as a booster. Pero nga with the donations, these are prioritized. Now, remember, dahil booster, only those who have completed the original monovalent vaccine series are eligible to get the bivalent booster at this time. Now, there are really no very detailed guidelines, no, but ito again, disclaimer like Dr. Franco, this is my own belief, no, kasi sa ngayon, the approval, because this is donation, is for people who have received their second booster, and this is supposed to be a third booster. But for me, we could give this bivalent already as a first booster, at least 4 to 6 months after a primary series of any COVID vaccines that we have been administered, or as a second booster to individuals who have received a first booster dose of any authorized or approved COVID-19 vaccine, or as a third booster dose, especially among the immunocompromised population. So, para sa akin, pwede. Pero of course, dahil donated yung vaccines, it's the DOH call to prioritize giving it to only these vulnerable groups. Now, I also wanted to include some frequently asked questions in my answers. So there are a number of people who text me or send messages as a messenger. Is the updated vaccine safe? And how do we know? Actually, these bivalent vaccines work in the same way as the original COVID-19 vaccines and original booster shots. And they're made using the same process. So both yung studies and real-life data on bivalent vaccines show that people experience the same side effects as the monovalent vaccines. Most importantly, ang usual, yung mga pain on the injection site. Siyempre, we still have some of those rare events, pero yung general, they're basically the same, monovalent and bivalent safety. Another question, can I get more than one updated bivalent vaccine? There are some people who are very eager naman, no? While some are hesitating, others want to get themselves vaccinated. So, pwede naman yung iba, but we have to really prioritize, no? The following groups have the option of getting an additional bivalent shot. And this actually follows US CDC guidelines, but of course, subject to availability or sufficiency of supplies. One is people 65 and older, and if they have no immunocompromise or generally healthy, they can get another bivalent shot at least 4 months from the last dose. Of course, there are data showing that longer intervals between the last dose, 6 months to even after data up to 12 months, are actually better. So a second is immunocompromised people, so those with weakened immune system, like people who are undergoing treatment for cancer, have HIV, or are suffering from diseases that require immunosuppressive therapy. So they are a special group of people who can receive more than one bivalent vaccine or the current updated vaccine. And they can get another bivalent shot if at least 2 months have passed since the last vaccine dose. Now, again, we go back to the question, yung mga, kasi sabi ko, I really emphasize booster ang approval for the bivalent. So if the updated vaccine provides better protection, others are actually asking those who have not received their primary shots, can they get it as primary? In the Philippines, no, not yet. No, well, we hope the approval will come later, but right now, at this time, it is for booster doses only. So you also saw this, no? We have the bivalent BA.4, BA.5, but now we are seeing XBB, all of the sublineages of XBB. So what are we doing about it? Of course, the virus continues to mutate, and therefore, vaccine development will have to continue to match, no? Hahabulin natin yan to match what is circulating. So these are some of the developments, recent developments as of May, just this May 2023, yung nga, XBB 0.1 descendant lineages predominate the SARS-CoV-2 circulation globally. So the World Health Organization, SAGE, yung group advisory for immunizations for coronavirus specific, no, recommended the use of a monovalent, okay, balik tayo sa term, monovalent XBB.1 descendant lineage. So, marami siyang pinsan, ano? XBB 1.5 or XBB 1.16 as the updated vaccine antigen. What is good about these other sublineages now is that they're actually closely related. So if you choose XBB 0.1.5 or XBB 0.1.16 or maybe another one, they basically may be cross-reactive still, no? Now, so given this WHO SAGE recommendation, the US FDA's Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee last June 15, 2023, unanimously voted to update to a monovalent COVID-19 vaccine with an XBB lineage of the Omicron variant with a preference for XBB 1.5. And as of June, so a few days after that, Pfizer was already ready, submitted applications to the US FDA and even the European Medicines Agency for Omicron XBB.1.5 adapted monovalent COVID-19 vaccine. So what that means is it's just now XBB that will be the content of the vaccine, no more ancestral or original strain. So because of this application, or maybe soon enough, they will be approving that. The next updated vaccines for COVID-19 in the USA will target the XBB 0.1.5 variant for the 2023-2024 formulation for use beginning in the fall of 2023. So around, ano ba yan? Ano ba ang fall sa US? August, September. So yon, you expect that. So, but let me also say that there are other formulations or platforms that achieve robust neutralizing antibody responses against some other XBB descendant lineages, which could be considered, and some are currently in the pipeline. So I only have two here. We have one, this is based only on a press release from Pfizer. COVID-19 next generation vaccine candidate based on the enhanced spike protein design. You know, yung most of, well, mRNA spike, yan yung vaccine natin na binibigay, no? They have tried to actually enhance the immunogenicity of that spike, but actually used mRNA, yung RNAs encoding an enhanced prefusion spike protein. So before this spike, the RBD gets into the host cell, yung virus vaccine is changed into a higher, more immunogenic form. So it could be yun mentioned dimer or trimer. So and that is probably what will make it more a better vaccine. So enhanced prefusion spike proteins for the SARS-CoV-2 ancestral strain plus an Omicron variant. So this, for Pfizer at least, this is part of a long-term scientific COVID-19 vaccine strategy to potentially generate more robust, longer-lasting, and broader immune responses against SARS-CoV-2 infections and associated COVID-19. And the last one here, the other one is on T cells. You, of course, heard from Dr. Franco that the T cell activation seems to be sustained from the first time you get the vaccine to many months later. But they're also looking at T cell directed vaccines. For Pfizer, at least, this is called BNT162B4. The original is B2. Meron din silang B5, yung kanina, with the enhanced spike prefusion protein. But this one is called 162B4, and it encodes conserved non-spike antigens. So yung spike is the probably the more important, but other proteins of the virus may also be important, and they have actually shown this to the use of such non-spike antigens could protect animals from severe SARS-CoV-2 infection. So here we have this one, BNT126B4. So what are those non-spike proteins? Yung nucleocapsid, matrix, and then the other non-structural proteins in the open reading frames ng virus. So they have identified antigens from these non-spike proteins across a broad range of SARS-CoV-2 variants. So kahit sila variant, dito sa mga antigens na to, meron silang mga common or conserved regions, and they use this. So the non-spike proteins have been chosen based on BioNTech's proprietary target prioritization platform and were designed into a vaccine candidate with the purpose of enhancing and broadening T-cell immunity and potentially extending durability of protection against COVID-19. So they have started this is non-clinical or animal studies, the basis for the now phase 1 human trial, which started last November 16, 2022. And this will be evaluated in combination with the company's Omicron BA4 and BA5 adopted bivalent COVID-19 vaccine. So with that, I just say these take-home messages. While the international state of public health emergency has been lifted as of May 2023, we all know that the SARS-CoV-2 virus continues to circulate, in most cases are due to the Omicron variant, subvariant, sublineages. Now, we all know that immunity following COVID-19 natural infection or vaccination wanes over time, and the variants that emerge evade the immunity generated previously. Thus, maybe the key word here is updating. It is important to stay up to date on COVID-19 vaccinations. Vaccines against COVID-19, as we know, have been updated to match the currently circulating strains. So nga, BA4, BA5, pero soon enough, yung other strains will come in. will be yung vaccine adapted na, no? So the booster we know restores protection after waning immunity, and the updated version was shown to be more effective against symptomatic infection compared to monovalent vaccine. So my last line is that all persons should stay up to date with the recommended COVID-19 vaccinations, including bivalent booster doses for those eligible. So with that, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Dean Nina Gloriani, who's always been on the program, also giving us really insight into how these decisions are made about vaccines. Thank you so much. We have so many questions, but I think Raymond wanted to say something. Raymond, go ahead.
No, I was going to thank Dr. Nina for anchoring it in the Philippine context, making sure, kasi people are asking po, pwede ba po ba ako niyan dahil senior citizen ako, o gaano po katagal in between. So those were in your slides, ma'am. So thank you so much, especially for that FAQ slides po. Thank you so much.
Alam mo, both presentations, I'm gonna watch again, no? Kasi parang it's, what should I say? It's a lot of information, but it's very important information for us and for our frontliners, so that you can explain also to your patients, why they should be vaccinated with the bivalent vaccine. Okay, so we have so many questions, Raymond, but before we go into our Q&A, and in our Q&A, we're going to be joined by Assistant Secretary Beverly Ho, who will be taking questions for the Department of Health on behalf of our Health Secretary. But I think, Raymond, you wanted our public service announcement first.
Yes. So we'll ask po our panelists, so that will be Assistant Secretary Ho, Dr. Felizarta, and Dr. Gloriani to open up their videos. But while they're doing that, we'll take a very quick break for a special public service announcement today.
Sigurado ka na ba sa reservations natin?
Oo naman.
Bakit bihis na bihis ka?
Oo, magiging escort mo ko eh.
Mukhang may date si Lolo't Lola.
Ilagay mo kaya ito?
Ang ganda naman.
Maganda yan. Special ang lakad natin. Ano, ready ka na?
Ready na. Mom, Dad, aalis si Lolo't Lola. Oo, anak, after lunch. Sa nalakad niyo po. Para sa atin lahat ito. Magpapabakuna kami dahil mahal namin kayo.
Dahil mahal ko kayo, magpapabakuna ako.
Thank you so much, TVUP. The COVID Communication Public Service Announcement, just one of the many creative outputs of the Stop COVID Deaths team to push for COVID-19 vaccinations, including bivalent vaccines po. No? So please share this video clip with all of your social media accounts and stay safe and stay well. Magpasama na po sa Bakuna Center. Okay. Dr. Susie, let's start the ball rolling.
Okay, let's get the ball rolling. I see a number of questions, but I wanted to have a bit of a provocative opening question, both for Franco and for Nina. In my head, no, so ako, I got my shots all in the United States, and 6 months after my boosters, I got the bivalent booster. And in between that, I also got COVID twice. So I've got lots of immunity, I think. But I think, so the question for me is this, right? In my head now, I think based on persons on the street who were saying may bagong bakuna and all of that, should we not be talking about just having a regular COVID vaccine without having explained what these different vaccines are? Kasi it's confusing for the public, you know. In the same way na ako, since I was about 50, I know that every year I need the flu vaccine. And every year it changes what kind of vaccine they give you, right? So should we be talking about just having a regular vaccine for COVID? Is that a good way to go forward? Kasi based on yung person on the street, may disconnect, you know, there's a disconnect between how people see the vaccine and see it in relation to pandemic. And Franco's been talking about endemicity a long time na, no? Na endemic, ibig sabihin, nandiyan na. And so the way we manage it has to be more programmatic. No, regularly there's got to be vaccine. So let me ask that first for Franco and then for Dean Nina. Should our messaging be regular na po ang bakuna nyo or something like that? So Franco, go ahead.
Well, so let's take, for example, influenza vaccination, right? So influenza vaccines are usually about 50% effective, depending on if it matches the circulating virus, about 50%. Plus, the duration of effectiveness is about 4 months. Same thing with the bivalent vaccine, about 4 months. So it's very important to time it properly, because 4 months lang, right? Only 50%. So with influenza, we already know the seasonality of influenza. So at least in the United States, it's the winter season, okay, and in the Philippines, it's the rainy season, right? So question is, if COVID, we're already transitioning to endemicity. So if it's established that it becomes endemic, would it be seasonal like influenza? Would it come out more in the rainy season or in the Philippines, or winter season in the United States? I think it will be like that. Most respiratory diseases increase incidence during the rainy season in the Philippines and winter season in the United States. So it's very important to get a vaccine then just before those seasons, but it has to match with the circulating virus, right? So it's like influenza. Why would you get a vaccine from the previous year? Right? You have to get a virus that will match the circulating virus, at least, as forecasted, because you cannot be 100%. Because sometimes the flu doesn't match well, it will be only 20% effective. Sometimes it matches well, it will be 70% effective. So hopefully we can do that. And I think that can be done because it's becoming more predictable. So remember, it was different variants before, and it became different Omicron subvariants. Now it's different XBB strains. So it's becoming more, and the duration usually is just a few months. But XBB has been there, since January, and it's still not changing. So I think it will be XBB for a while. So it will be easier to match the circulating virus. And I think the XBB 1.5 is a good goal. Now, you might say, why didn't they do the BA.4/5 alone, and why did they have to give the ancestral with the BA.4/5 in the first place, right? Why not a monovalent BA.4/5 rather than? Why do we have to mix it with ancestral? Well, the problem is, at that time we're not 100%. Remember, the lethal variants are the original ones, right? The original, the alpha and delta. What if it evolved to a delta-like variant? We'll be in trouble if we didn't have a bivalent, right? So it's easier, what you call said than done, that they should have given the monovalent BA.4/5 instead of mixing it with the ancestral virus. So in hindsight, it's easy to say that, but I would have agreed to give the bivalent at the time, because we're not so good in forecasting the circulating virus at the time.
Yeah, Nina, how about you? What do you think of communicating this as something that needs to be done regularly? Because I think people think, tapos na, nagka-COVID na ako, nabakunahan na ako, wala nang pandemic, pwede na lumabas, wala nang mask. Ganun yung mindset. Kaya, bakit pa ako magpapabakuna? No, so I'm glad you brought out that concept of seasonality, Franco, because I think we have to help the public understand na pabalik-balik vaccine. What they need to know is that they need a regular shot. I think so. I'm just trying to simplify it from a kind of like a health promotion point of view. Okay, Nina, go ahead.
Yes. So ano ba yung regular? We have now entered yung endemicity na phase, no? Normalcy, sort of. So the word is, we integrate yung ating vaccine program ng COVID and Dr. Bebo, I think, can answer that better later. Integrate it into the routine immunization. Well, whatever season, like the flu, what we're looking at really will be similar to flu. Yung may sarili-sariling every 2 years, nag-change yung strains. So maybe we will not call it monovalent, bivalent, we'll just call it an updated vaccine. And make also, maybe at this point, I would like to say that we also have to make the regulatory processes for such approvals easier. Parang magiging flu na yan. Hindi na siya yung, COVID yan, kailangan ko makuha yan, hindi ko kailangan. I think we have to erase that, remove that thinking now, that it should become part of our integrated health.
Correct. Correct. Kasi parang gano'n parang hindi ko na kailangan yan. Di ba? Parang tapos na Pero actually, hindi. No? Anyway, okay. Bev, what's your view on this?
I think, ma'am, definitely that's something that we want to consider. However, until now, di ba, parang wala pa namang clear evidence around this. So parang we are ready, but perhaps from the DOH standpoint, it's not being communicated that way yet because we're also unsure. Parang mahirap din naman to make the promise. But I guess siguro within the medical community, pwede na siyang ma-discuss. Pero siguro sa general public lang, hindi rin kami sure whether future doses will be funded. So I guess yun yung mga complicating factors lang.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Raymond, isa-isahin natin to. Daming tanong. There are 9 or 10 questions. Go ahead.
Okay. Question again. Pero I don't know if it's more DOH or more for Dr. Nina. We'll start with Dr. Joseph Tortona, who's both a healthcare provider and senior citizen residing in Bulacan. He's curious to know when the bivalent vaccines will be made available for them. I think for his age and then for Bulacan. Ayun po.
Doc Bev yan.
Yes, opo. I think the priority for this first run of around 390,000 vaccines are healthcare workers specifically stationed in hospitals and senior citizens. So actually some regions have already rolled it out. Other regions have asked for some time kasi nagre-recuperate yung health workers from rolling out the supplemental immunization campaign for measles and polio. So yun lang. So I was made to understand by our field offices na this July, different dates nagsa-start na mag-roll out in each region. So maybe the best advice is really to check with the DOH hospital nearest. And actually, they did all the orientations already with the public and private hospitals in all regions last June. So roll out na talaga po ngayon, July. And then rest assured that Secretary Herbosa is just working with our legal team to finalize the agreements for 2 more million vaccines from COVAX.
Okay. Thank you, Assistant Secretary Bev. Next question, very important, very pertinent, from Dr. Camilo Nogoy. How soon should the public expect the sale of the vaccine, bivalent vaccine, now that there is a CPR?
May I answer that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Well, actually, by CPR, we mean ima-market na, commercial. So it will be sold. So as soon as they get the license to import or export from the US or import here, it will take some time. Pero I'm sure they will be coming. I heard that Pfizer will be conducting a press con about maybe the availability and all of this. It should not be very far from what we're having today. Kasi there are also many people in the private sector who are looking at bivalent vaccines. Hindi sila available if they're not under the priority groups. So I think soon enough, I just cannot tell. Let's wait for the press con ng Pfizer.
Thank you, Ma'am Nina. Dr. Susie, would you want to take that, There's a question, but it's for Dr. Franco.
Teka, sino ba yun? Yun. My question is, yung kay Wen Raimundo, sige.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
how does the BA.4, BA.5 bivalent booster perform in producing neutralizing antibodies for XBB 1.5 compared to producing neutralizing antibodies for BA.4 and BA.5?
Yeah, so one of my slides I've shown it. So for example, for the GMA level neutralizing antibody for BA.4/5 using the BA.4/5 ancestral bivalent, it was about 500, 500, and then for the XBB, it was about 50, so it was tenfold lower. So yeah, it's a lot lower. The problem is we don't know the correlated protection. You know, we know the correlated protection. I think based on most studies now, it's about 500 for against infection, but against severe disease, it's lower. Okay, it's lower. So yeah, the 50 probably, pretty sure the 50 would not work against infection. You know, but it might still work against severe disease. So that's why I would still recommend it for 65 years and older, especially those with comorbidities. Yeah, but yeah, in terms of just symptomatic, asymptomatic, any infection is almost useless for XBB. That's based on the antibody response and the several of the studies.
Okay. I have a question here, Raymond, from my phone. The question is, you have vaccination first, the bivalent, but in the US, everyone is using bivalent. Can our speakers comment on that? I'm going to ask Bev to comment on that first, no? Kasi magkaiba yung context, no? But yeah, Ma'am Nina said you cannot get bivalent without a primary monovalent vaccine. Sige, who wants to start? Bev, okay,
I'll do.
go.
Yes po. Basically, it's because we follow what is the regulated use of the product. No? So in the Philippines, the bivalent vaccines are registered by FDA, and the allowed use for it is really as booster. So we follow that. No? So kaya yung base sa atin is dapat naka-booster dose bago ka pwede mag-bivalent. So if we would want to have a similar case in the US, the registration of the bivalent vaccines will have to be amended, and the FDA panel will have to review and allow it to be used as a primary vaccine.
Okay, Franco, you want to comment on that?
Sorry.
Yeah, you want to comment on that, Franco, na dito kailangan may monovalent vaccine muna bago yung bivalent because of the way it was classified, no, when it was registered.
Well, in the United States, we don't have a choice. Wala nang monovalent in the United States, and so it's indicated for any it can be any primary series or booster. It doesn't matter because we can get the monovalent.
That seems to be more efficient, no? Parang it's a more efficient way of doing it. But I don't know, Bev, is that because we have a lot of monovalent vaccines pa? Ganun ba yung ibig sabihin nun?
Actually, ma'am, the registration came directly from the providers. So, hindi parang we're out of the loop. Parang in that way, FDA is independent and their panel is independent in ascertaining the indications for the vaccine.
Ma'am Nina, what do you think?
Well, I think that will change. So these approvals could always be amended, no? Every time. Pero kasi, tama si Ma'am Bev, Dr. Bev. They applied for a booster registration, CPR, hindi for primary na. They could have done that, but I don't know, maybe they have some studies kasi many of us have been vaccinated already with the monovalent, so ano pa, but to give it as a booster, something like that. But I think that will change. That will change. Kaya nga yung mga slides ko parati nakalagay at this time, at this point in time.
Yeah, it is evolving. I think that's a very important message for our audience, no? That this is evolving. It's like we're kind of building the plane as we fly, right? I mean, and that's the nature of a pandemic. Paiba-iba talaga yung mangyayari. So, in a way, walang sisihan. You know, you make your best decision when you have to, and then you go with it. Okay, Raymond, we have a couple of more questions, and then we'll have to start wrapping up. Although, 7 pa to, 7 pa tong questions nakita ko, Sige.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. Sige. Dr. Susie, this question, well, I'll post this na lang kay Dr. Franco as the ID specialist. From Eva Theodora Season, would bivalent vaccines have a significant rate of protection for persons who had been infected for more than a year?
Well, I've shown the studies that it has a better efficacy at 6 months after the last infection or 6 months after the last monovalent dose. So at least 6 months, yes. But remember if the benefit is modest and short-lived. Yeah, but yes, you after at least 6 months, there's a better efficacy.
Okay.
That's
Next
both infection
question.
and both infection and monovalent dose.
Thank you, sir. Next question: can you get a bivalent booster if you've had herpes zoster reactivation after COVID? Sa inyo ulit, Dr. Franco.
Oh yeah, it's not a contraindication.
It's not a contraindication. Okay.
It's not even if you got
Okay. Dr. Susie, do you have any question? I think most of these have already been answered na naman po.
Parang sinagot yata. Okay, Maria Teresa Alba Millonado, is the bivalent vaccine safe for people who have a history of TIA or stroke?
Sinagot ni Doktor.
Yeah, TIA and stroke is not a contraindication for.
Not also contraindicated. Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, and then okay, I have another question here, and this is
sorry, just to
go ahead.
add. So those
Yeah.
patients actually have comorbidities like stroke and and TIA are actually the ones that should benefit
To
the
get
most
the vaccine.
from
Yeah.
vaccine.
Okay, so about vaccination status of children in the Philippines, and maybe this is for Nina and maybe for Bev, no? Because again, coming from the United States, we see very high levels of vaccination for kids, but here I don't know. So where are we on vaccination for children? And again, are we applying the same rule that they have to have the monovalent vaccine first before the booster? Of course you are, no? Because Bev already explained it. But Doc Nina, please.
Actually, we have to know from Doc Web, Asset Web, if we still have vaccines. Kasi we may have to change our recommendations, no? Like what the US is recommending, they have removed all the monovalents. So what can we do if if we don't have the monovalent? What shall we give? Wala na, di ba? So parang technical na yon, that they cannot receive that. But as far as I know, dito sa children, there's some especially if you talk to pediatricians who see yung serious COVID among children, siguro yung may mga comorbidities, yung mga children somehow with chronic diseases, they have to be given these vaccines, or we have to do more to convince the parents to give these children the COVID vaccine. Maybe not for the general. But
Yeah.
I don't know kung bivalent yan. Dahil wala naman tayo na yata monovalent din. But right now,
Bev, go ahead.
pwede. Doc Beb?
Yes po, we still have
Bev,
monovalent. Yes, ma'am. We still do have monovalent vaccines, but most of them are already expiring by September or October of this year. So by then, we will really likely have to amend our policies po.
I think what we're saying is that from a scientific point of view, you can give the bivalent a sure price, right? Tech and procurement point of view and the licensing point of view, then the bivalent is only being given as booster. So okay, so anyway, I think there are a lot of other questions, but we are running out of time. So I think, Raymond, let's go to our fun quiz.
Okay, thank you so much. Can we have it on the screen, TVUP team? Okay, for our first, this one naman sinagot na to ni Dr. Franco in his lecture. I'll just ask him to reiterate. What are the components of the bivalent vaccine, sir?
So it's the ancestral strain and the combination of BA4, BA5 Omicron subvariants. So both, not all of the above, but both A and B.
It's A and B. Okay po. Tandaan niyo po that's a little bit of a curveball that we threw, but it's A and B as the correct answer for today's first question. Second question, also for Dr. Franco. In the Philippines, can you get a bivalent vaccine without completing a primary series? Maybe not Dr. Franco, will ask Dr. Gloriani na lang po. Ma'am Nina?
As I said, the indication or the approval is for a booster, so you cannot.
Okay. For a booster po, tandaan po natin na for a booster, but not for primary series po.
At
Okay?
This time.
At the moment.
At this time. Sorry. At this time.
We may change.
And then lastly, again, for you, Ma'am Nina,
Yeah.
who should be prioritized in receiving the COVID-19 vaccine?
Now,
Bivalent
all of ito, A1, A2, A3, ABC.
All of the above. Okay po. Okay. So right now we'll ask each of our panelists to come up with their final messages, their takeaways po for the audience to take away from this webinar. While we're doing that, we will be moving to our evaluation poll. So evaluation poll na ito, hindi po siya hiwalay na sinesend out. Ito na po iyon. And we're hoping that you'll be able to participate in answering this evaluation poll. May we have it on the Zoom screen, TVUP. It's 5 questions, 4-point Likert scale. Okay, I'm pulling it up. And hopefully you'll be able to participate. We have relative to our other webinars, a huge number of participants, and also in the Facebook and YouTube. So hopefully you'll be able to participate. Number 1, the panelists demonstrated thorough knowledge of the topic. Number 2, the panelists were well prepared and organized. Number 3, the panelists spoke clearly and audibly. Number 4, the panelists used appropriate language with technical medical jargons adequately explained. And finally, the panelists contributed to new perspectives and knowledge on managing various key health issues. So we will not be closing this until the end of the webinar as we move on to the final messages from our panelists. Dr. Susie.
Okay, so Bev, your parting message from the Department of Health and First Secretary Robosa.
Yes, thank you very much po. We would want to continue to encourage everyone who received their primary series to get their bivalent vaccine. So for our health workers who are listening today, please kindly sign up with the hospitals that you are affiliated with. And for our senior citizens, continue to check out the websites or information drives of your local government units. So as with our previous rollouts, all the vaccines will be provided through your local government unit. So yun lang po. And then we're hoping to be able to provide you with more exciting news in the coming weeks regarding the arrival of more bivalent vaccines. So maraming salamat po, and thank you Ma'am Susie and Doc Raymond for this platform to inform our public.
Thank you so much. It's Dr. Beverly Ho, who is Assistant Secretary for Health. Okay, Ma'am Nina.
Okay, you know, I'm in the middle of, I'm in the technology side and in the public health side. And what I'd like to tell people is we have to use our knowledge or all of these things that are now coming up because of technology to benefit yung public health programs and of course people. So let us just be open about this and help others if we can. Understand better the need for such, of course, for COVID, it is updating because clearly we have seen that it's very similar to the flu and it will need updating. So yung openness lang for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That's former Dean Nina Gloriani of the UP College of Public Health and was head of the vaccine expert panel for COVID-19. Okay, let's go to Franco.
So we're now transitioning from pandemic phase to endemic phase, but remember the endemic phase of COVID is still brutal. You know, it's still at least 2 to 3 times worse than the flu. So it's still important to get updated vaccines, especially for the elderly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Franco Felisarta, who's joining us from the US where it's rather late. Thank you. We really appreciated your presentation. Maraming salamat po. Okay, we are going to the evaluation poll. Raymond, or do you want to do that later? Mukhang late yata pang launch. No?
Yeah. Well, let's do it later after the closing remarks. Dr.
Okay, let's have our closing remarks and synthesis by Dr. Stella Marie Jose. Stella, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for watching this webinar. We have very, very good speakers, excellent talk. From Dr. Franco Felisarta, he spoke of the bivalent booster update. And as mentioned, it is composed of the ancestral strain and the BA.4 and BA.5 of the BA.1.15219H. He also mentioned the uptake of the COVID-19 vaccines, and the vaccine uptake was initially at 50%, but later it decreased to 1 in 5 who were vaccinated in the US. Worldwide, he also mentioned that worldwide death initially was in the pandemic mode of like 10 million, and later on it became already endemic. So there were lesser people who died from COVID because of vaccination. So, but this is despite the low vaccination rate. So what he is saying, and he said this also before, about hybrid immunity. He said that hybrid immunity offers a very good protection. So the bivalent vaccine is slightly better than the monovalent, according to him, and the antibodies is decreasing over time. So he said 6 months or later, and the antibody response is better if there is a previous infection. So huwag kayong matakot kung nagkaroon na ng previous infection. That is really quite good for you because you will have the T-cell response, and yung T-cell response is more long-lasting. So it is more important. So the bivalent effectiveness, so it is 50% more effective than the monovalent. He mentioned also that 65 years old and older, they should be given the bivalent vaccine. Okay, so and at least if you want to get another bivalent shot, it should be at least 4 months from the time of the last vaccine. From Dr. Nina Gloriani, she mentioned SARS-CoV-2 and also mentioned the subvariants and the waning immunity. And we have to, that's why she kept in her conclusion, she also said that we have to update our vaccine immunity. So kahit nagpa-vaccine na kayo before, dapat dahil waning antibody,
I think naputol si Dr. Stella.
Kala ko ako naputol eh.
Ayan
Stel,
na, she's back, she's back.
Stel, a few seconds. We lost you for a few seconds.
Yes. So yung bivalent, if there is protection against two strains, and also it contains the original of the Omicron virus. So why did they have bivalent? Because yung lethal variant dapat kasama dun sa vaccine na i-roll out. Okay, so who should get, as mentioned, 12 years and older, and those who have completed the monovalent series. So they are the one eligible to get the bivalent. And as also mentioned, the US FDA vaccine voted unanimously to update to a monovalent COVID-19 vaccine with the XBB lineage of the Omicron variant, with preference for XBB 1.5. So let us all wait for that because magiging monovalent po siya. Thank you very much. Back to you, Susie.
Okay, thank you so much. That's Dr. Stella Maria Jose from the Philippine General Hospital. Great synthesis, very succinct, and really captured all of the main points. Okay, so I think, okay, Raymond, you want to go into your evaluation?
Evaluation po, so we have to date 70% of those participants po.
May naghahanap pa ng form. Raymond, itong si Rosa Marie Flores, naghahanap pa ng form.
Okay, it's here po. It's lunch naman po. There are, as mentioned, there are 70% of our participants answered the evaluation poll po. No? So it's a fluctuating, medyo mataas po ang ating, it's one of the more well received po, no? 94, 95%, 91%, 97% agree, and strongly agree pala, sorry. Doon po sa ating mga questions. Really testament to our content and the insights provided by our speakers po. No? So we would like to thank again Secretary Ted Herbosa and Assistant Secretary Beverly Ho from the Department of Health, Dr. Franco Felizarta, very late, but thank you for joining us all the way from California, and former Dean of the College of Public Health, UP Manila, Dr. Nina Gloriani. Maraming salamat po. Dr. Susie?
Okay, next week, we will talk about mental health and well-being. Our host department will be the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Medicine of the Philippine General Hospital. Abangan niyo po. Raymond, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Susie. So before we close our program, we'd like to mention that all of our Stop COVID Deaths webinars, they are archived for viewing. Right now, it's 152. After today, it will be 153 webinars archive po sa TVUP YouTube channel. So you just type in sa browsers ko, or if you have the app, you go to youtube.com/TVUPPH. Doon din po ninyo makikita ang ating what we lovingly call SED shorts. These are selected presentations and shortened po that we feature in its entirety. So meron po doon mga 2 minutes, etc. And hopefully that will be valuable po while you're trying to maybe pass the time or trying to just learn some more about the topic at hand. I for sure, and Dr. Susie also, will be watching this on the playback just to be able to understand it better po, lalo na po patungkol po sa ating bivalent vaccine. So this formally closes our webinar for the week. Makita-kita po tayo again next Friday from 12 noon to 2 p.m. It's a date.
Together, we can stop COVID deaths.
So keep safe, keep healthy, and see you online.